back to the big breaking story at this hour. YC Deveshwar will give up his executive role at FMCG major ITC from February next year. We must underline that Mr. Deveshwar continues to remain the chairman and CEO of the company and will continue to do so for the next 8 months. This transition will happen starting February 5th, 2017. But it really is the end of an era at ITC. I do an annual interview with the ITC chairman, YC Deveshwar. And just last year, when I met with him and asked him about the succession planning and his decision to retire, here's what he had to say. There's been a lot of talk about a succession plan that you're now putting in place. We've seen some management changes being announced as well. This is a conversation that you and I have had in the past as well. 2017 is when your term expires. Are you now in the process of putting your succession plan in place?
You know, I mentioned to you that we will next talk about succession
in 2017.
You see, it is the media that enjoys this because they are looking for selling their publication or selling TRPs or whatever. But it's a routine activity here. We are making changes which are in the interest of the company today and tomorrow.
So one shouldn't see or read too much into the changes that have been made and who's been moved in terms of a final succession plan.
Nobody can prevent anybody from reading into things. After all, whatever happens in government, lots of people have interpretations. Similarly, in ITC, people have, you know, amazingly, there is very little noise within ITC for a very simple, you know, changes in portfolios of people. But the media is extremely excited about it for no reason at all.
Okay, you don't want to talk about a succession plan, but surely you've started work on one.
No, as I mentioned to you even last time, that it's not only starting now.
It's been a work in progress.
It's always a work in progress because after all, ITC has 13 chief executives that run different businesses. So succession plans are on in their case. And over a period of time, you have to groom people. So in any event, that is always on. I mean, that is my sacred duty to leave this company
in strong
hands. The hands of a safe pair of hands.
Well, that's an interview that I did with YC Deveshwar there on the possibility of him stepping down from his executive responsibility come February 2017. And that has exactly panned out. Let's go across now to Geeta Piramal, business historian. She joins us as well. Ms. Piramal, appreciate you joining us. Well, it is the end of an era at ITC. YC Deveshwar, one of the longest-serving CEOs that India has seen in the recent past, finally deciding to hang up his executive responsibilities come February of 2017.
Well, he is an amazing man, and the fight that he had to retain ITC as an Indian company and just not as an anonymous BAT, the UK company BAT, that was a tremendous achievement.
Yes, and one of his big achievements, of course, has been transforming ITC from a mere cigarette manufacturer to an FMCG player. And his aspiration, you know, when I first spoke to him in 2006, was that he would one day make ITC India's #1 FMCG company. So he realized the potential downfall or the perils of continuing to be just a cigarette manufacturer and hence started to move ITC towards the FMCG business. How do you see that?
Well, the hotels have been very successful, no doubt. The others, I would say there is still scope. But my question really is this, that he's not in the health business. Asia is smoking far more than the West is. And I personally don't buy ITC stock for this reason.
All right, so you're not in the camp that believes it's a good idea for him to use the cigarette money to diversify. But let's just take a look at the numbers or the legacy that he leaves behind. Revenue has grown almost tenfold, in fact, to 51,582 crores during his tenure, and profit before tax has grown 33 times to 14,958 crores. So that in itself speaks for his legacy, doesn't it?
I absolutely agree with you that he's an amazing businessman. And his achievements in much ahead of time, at least 15 to 20 years ahead of time. He had a program to engage farmers in order to get them a decent return on their efforts by trying to have e-choppers. I mean, it just was unheard of at that time to use technology in that way. So a remarkable businessman. I mean, I think I would like to compartmentalize my admiration for him as a man with the sector that he's in. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, that's and it's a fair point that you make, Ms. Piramal. Let me also bring in Sunil Alagh into the conversation, and I'd request you to hold on, Ms. Piramal. Sunil Alagh, YC Deveshwar deciding now to give up his executive responsibilities from February of 2017. He will continue to stay on as non-executive chairman, and he says that he will guide and mentor the young new management at ITC. Of course, they haven't clarified what the eventual succession plan will be, but what do you think Yogi Deveshwar's legacy will be?
Well, I mean, I think his legacy will be quite immense because I've been an admirer of Yogi for a long time because he's the one who decided that, look, tobacco is not the future of any business in any country today. And almost all tobacco companies worldwide have moved into what they would call as defensive areas like food. And the first foray that he really did in terms of food was biscuits. Before that, they were just toying around with a few things on commodities and you know, in agarbattis and everything else so that could be done. So what he did was that, if you ask me, he foresaw that, look, they have a distribution network which nobody can equal in this country, okay? Because they sell matchboxes, they sell cigarettes, and you go down to the last panwala, right down to the last village. So the number of millions of outlets that ITC covers is phenomenal. So he started from there and said, what more can I do with it? Because the hotels was something that Mr. Haksar had introduced many years ago. So the diversification that he's gone into is foods. And his latest one is in dairy. Now, that's another biggie because he says he has the back end tied up. And the front end is most people struggle with distribution network. So having decided that cigarettes is not the future anymore, look at the areas that he's got into is all the high growth areas and something where he doesn't have to teach Indians to, you know, to eat biscuits, or he's not getting into cornflakes, which Kellogg's came and took 10 years to change. So he's sharp, he's bright, and I think he's got, when he's coming into a mentoring role, I think the next couple of years he'll have ample time to assess everybody else before he announces who will take over.
But do you believe that there may be a change in strategy? Because as Geeta Piramal, who's also on the show with us, was pointing out, that, you know, a shareholder who is buying into ITC may not necessarily want to buy into his plans of diversifying into FMCG. They may want to continue to buy into a pure-play cigarette company. Do you believe that?
I don't believe in it. They go back 10 years ago and look at all the shareholders who went in, because that's when he started getting into biscuits. I think it was around 2003 or something like that. It's already 12 or 13 years, and look at how the shares are multiplied. I mean, everybody is very happy with what he's done. So to carry on saying I'm not happy with what he's doing now, maybe there might be one or two areas which may not work out, you know, because after all, nobody is God. You do make a few mistakes. But overall, any ITC shareholder, go back in 2000 and now we're in 2016, which year did they do badly? None, not a single year. Everybody's been rewarded very well.
No, absolutely. And we just read out those numbers. It's been a tenfold increase in revenues and profit before tax as well during his tenure. But Geeta Piramal, let me ask you this. You know, what would the challenges really be? In a sense, he will leave behind a much more fortified ITC when it comes to a boardroom battle with BAT. We also understand now that the FDI regulations will perhaps make it next to or near impossible for any possibility of BAT trying to re-enter in any meaningful way. But do you think that he leaves behind a fortified empire?
He absolutely leaves behind a fortified empire, and in multiple ways. All the ways which Sunil has pointed out, it is a diversified conglomerate. I think the the next step, as it were, for him would be to really grow the company much bigger, which may mean introducing more products. It may mean improving the lifestyle part of the group. So there's plenty of scope for growth in a financially strong company. But
You're right.
I would be very happy if they start reducing the dependence on cigarettes and tobacco and increase it in other areas.
Yeah. Sunil Alagh, what will be the challenge for YCD's successor? Large shoes to fill, obviously.
Yes.
It's a difficult, as we try and sort of recover from the slowdown, ITC has also been impacted on account of the heavy taxation, specifically on the cigarette sector, which has impacted volumes. What do you believe will be the key challenge for YC Deveshwar's successor?
No, but one legacy which he's done compared to any other company is that he's very, very focused on building brands for India. He's not gone in for any tie-ups with anybody abroad, and I'm sure a lot of companies would have wanted to tie up with him on foods and everything else to get into the distribution network, but he is very India-focused. He said, I have to develop brands which are our own, and if anybody wants... So he's built brands. Now, I don't think his lifestyle has worked that well. So that's why I was saying it's not that every area that he's gone into has worked. So, but the point remains, I have no clue what the next level of managers are capable of doing, because very often, sometimes when you have a huge tree like Yogi Deveshwar, then in the shade, you don't really get the manager. And sometimes, if none of them shape up, he might have to get someone from outside. Who knows? Because I have no idea what, like none of the other managers have been exposed to the public, or we have any idea what they are doing, or how many of us personally know. So that is the part where I think he looks inwards first, and if nobody internally happens, and I think he might even say, all right, I'll have an open, because after all, when he went into Air India also for a couple of years, Air India did very well under him. I think they made a profit when he was there, before he went back to ITC again.
Right.
So it's possible. I don't
right,
know. I haven't spoken to him, but I have no idea what is it, because not easy to fill up Yogi's shoes.
No, it certainly will not be an easy task. But, I want to pick up on the point that you made and get Ms. Piramal to react to that. YC Deveshwar, on various occasions in public, has spoken ad nauseum about how we need to create Indian brands, how we give away, money on account of royalty. And he has been steadfastly sort of, supporting the need for R&D and innovation in India and the need to create Indian brands. In that sense, wouldn't that be an important aspect of his legacy as well, Ms. Piramal?
So I would say that it's a great legacy which needs to go forward. And if we see what's happening in analytics, if we see what's happening in marketing, and when I say analytics, I'm not just saying somebody, some boffin sitting in a back office and talking about it and doing some empty research. India has very little data on what consumers actually, how they behave and what they decide. A company like ITC is ideally placed to capture and assess and data, customer behavior, and then take it to the next field. Now, if it succeeds, if his successor succeeds in that situation, I mean, you can see the point which Sunil said, I will be a sorry loser as a non-buyer of shares, but others will benefit hugely. Second point is that I'm a historian, and what I have seen is that when there is a clean break between a very strong leader and the new successor, when there's a clean break, the chances of radical transformation in the positive is much higher.
Right. Well, it is the end of an innings. It is the end of a long era. Come February 2017, ITC will have a new executive chairman. YC Deveshwar will take over as the non-executive chairman to guide and mentor the new management. We still don't have clarity on his successor, but the succession plan is being put in place. Sunil Alag and Geeta Piramal, appreciate you joining us here with your take.